Thank you for joining me on this solo episode of the Recruiters Recruitment podcast. This is possibly one of the proudest ones that I'll record because it's all in honour of my business, Qui Recruitment, turning 20 on the 10th of October 2025. So I thought this episode would be very apt to share in the week that we turn 20. I can share with you my reflections, my observations, my insights for what it's worth, and actually a couple of predictions as well, given the tenure that I have in this industry. The first thing I want to do in this solo episode on Qui Recruitment turning 20 is just turn the clock back, give you some insight into what the business world and the rec world was like when I launched on the 10th of October 2005, why I launched the business, in case you didn't already know, and what that evolution has been like for the last 2 decades. And maybe there'll be something to learn from it, maybe not, but it'll certainly, hopefully, have some good anecdotes for you. So thank you so much for clicking and thank you for continuing to listen. When I launched the business, it was because at the time it was twofold. I'd had my eldest daughter, who was born while I was running a business, a London-based recruitment business, and I ran the Manchester office. And flexible working wasn't really something that was professed to be the norm. And it certainly wasn't afforded easily to people. And the incredible business that I worked for really struggled to make it work for me to go back in a leadership role, but to do so part-time so that I didn't have to put my daughter into childcare 24/7. And so at that time, my then husband and I had a conversation around potentially me doing it for myself, because secondary to that, to the, I guess, hygiene factors of sort of finding something that was a bit more flexible to work around my life and my new responsibility as a mum, was that I felt there was a gap in the market, and that all too often the rec to rec and the recruitment model was too focused on the filling the job rather than the individual, the candidate who was going on a life journey into a new role. And so I decided to launch my own business a year after I'd gone on maternity leave. So I was well out of my restrictive covenants, and decided to launch the business with a name that I felt was simple enough to remember, simple enough to say, but had an all-important acronym meaning. And I wrote down sort of the values, which we didn't really talk about EVP back in 2005, let me tell you. But I'm a marketer by trade, so I knew that I needed to focus on the values that were really held dear to me and that were very important to me in each and every process that I run and always have done. And the first one I wrote down was integrity, which I do believe gets overused these days, but for me, it's where you do the right thing even when no one knows. It's about doing the right thing every single time, even when no one knows, and not shouting about it. The next one was actually quality. I've always been very focused around ratios. It wasn't data then, but I'm a big believer that data is the key to understanding how you work. It's the mathematics of what you do, as opposed to the quantity element. And then the other element was urgency. Because I do work with pace. Anyone that's ever engaged with me will know that I'm quite a high energy person. And I also believe that the you would be the pun on you. It's all about the you in the process. And when I wrote them down, I thought, well, I can see already that that says qui. And in French, that means who. So it just felt like a really poetic, sensible name. It wasn't taken on Companies House, most importantly, nor was the domain name taken. And so Qui Recruitment was incorporated. And on the first day of incorporation, I got myself on a tram into Manchester. Just thought I'll just go and knock on a few doors of people that I've known for a long time. And by chance, I happened to bump into someone who I called my bird dog. This is a really funny euphemism, which is somebody that you'll never place with, but someone that will go out their way to help you and will send out birds. And he literally grabbed me and went, "Oh my God, you're back." And I said, "Yeah, I've just set up on my own." And he said, "I know two people who are looking for a job at the minute. Let me give you their numbers." Gave me their numbers. They were exclusive, and I placed them within the first month, which I know was a very fortuitous thing to happen in my first month of business. It didn't stay that easy forever. That was back in 2005. The rec-to-rec market in the Northwest there was probably 3 or 4 players at the time, which is obviously a very different story to 2025 when there's probably 3 or 4 in each postcode. And it was very much around building personal relationships. So going out, meeting clients, meeting every candidate in person before we even sent them out to market, which now feels very old-fashioned. I worked remotely for a long time. In 2011, I then started to grow my business and I took on a number of people who were very accomplished. I think the minimum experience I had was 10 years. And then I had somebody who had about 25 years recruitment working for me. But as is often the case, rec to rec gets underestimated and it is very challenging. I hasten to add that two of those people, I am going to mention their names, Joe Hood and Kerry Ann Hargreaves, are two very dear friends to me, whom I still speak to on a regular basis, and I'm very proud of their achievements in their recruitment careers since they moved on from Qui Recruitment. So it's a challenging market, and it doesn't suit everybody. That's the reality. And then in 2016, I had a call from an ex-colleague who'd worked with me in that London company, Laura Dutton, to say she was moving back up to the northwest where she's originally from, and could I help her get a job? And to cut a long story short, nah, you can come and work with me. So we launched a separate business. Qui Recruitment London Limited is a separate company, and Laura to this day still focuses on placing and working with exclusive and very covert senior people in the specifically within the fintech and technology space within the London boroughs, the London city area. And is very, very well regarded, and has obviously been key to sort of launching and supporting a number of startups, but also long-standing relationships as well over her sort of 20 odd year recruitment career as well. And for the last 11 years, as Qui Recruitment London Limited, sorry, 10 years. No, let me get this right. She joined in 20, I think it was 2014. So there you go. Got my numbers wrong. 11 years, I am right. And then we celebrated 10 years in 2015. We had a massive party in Manchester. I invited dozens and dozens of recruitment clients. It's quite a notorious night that is quite infamous in the recruitment archives. We had to close the bar at one point because somebody came along with his stag do, believe it or not. And we're talking thousands of pounds spent on alcohol, which now as a sober person I cringe about, but it was a very good night. And then obviously 2017, infamously got introduced to Shannon Rowlands, who has been with the business ever since, by an amazing gentleman called Tom Rogers, who she'd worked with during her internship, during her degree. And the rest is history. She actually was going to come and get a job with one of my clients, but I stole her. And she's never leaving now. So Shannon's been with the business now for 8 years and counting, and she's an incredible biller. She's possibly the most paranoid recruiter you could ever meet. She is more caring than any recruiter I've ever met in all the years I've done recruitment. She really cares about the journey and the story of the person that she's working with. That's the client and the candidate. She takes it very personally and she will never leave a stone unturned. She's possibly the most diligent person I know, full stop. So she's amazing. And then, of course, my own daughter, Lilia Holmes, joined the business in the summer of 2024 as a trainee and to initially resource for myself and Shannon, and has really grown in her confidence in meeting clients across the region, and is obviously the person that is producing the content across all our social media channels. She's fantastic at building out the production of our podcast as well. And she is, when I'm recording this now, she's traveling around the Greek Isles. But when you're watching this, she will be back and she will be doing a full 360 role, working with recruitment consultants in the region who are looking for a new role. Whether you're a second jobber or whether you're somebody that's, just started out, or whether you're somebody that's, a few years into their recruitment career, Lilia is the one that you should get in touch with. So we're in a really exciting stage of our evolution. And I think from an observations point of view, I think when I look back over the last 20 years, there's always something that's threatening the recruitment industry. There's, when I started it was definitely LinkedIn. 2007, everyone's like, LinkedIn's going to replace recruiters. And it hasn't. We've just learned to use it effectively. I mean, it's a recruiter's absolute, well, possibly nightmare in some ways from a cost perspective, but from an ROI perspective, we couldn't be without LinkedIn now. And I think that where we are now is an evolution with AI and technology and automation. I actually feel that it really underpins and makes proper recruiters do the job properly. And what will become more prevalent, and I guess my predictions are, is that we'll almost go full circle, that it will be about going out and seeing your clients, spending time with them, being on the phone to them, understanding their personal situation, What are their pain points? What can we do to support you? I genuinely think that the days of the transactional portal-based recruitment, I think those days are gone. And I think that we are in an evolution of skill set where it will be that human connection. I've said that on previous podcasts, and I firmly stand by that now. I think it's about doing more. I think it's about doing more because you want to, not because you have to. And I think that the most important thing is that you do this job because you love engaging and learning about people, and you have to adapt, you have to be agile. And I think if you don't, you're at risk of being replaced and also finding it a really frustrating job. So when you're listening to this now, hoping for some, I guess, pearls of wisdom, they are these things. Always do the right thing by people, even when you think you might not get a financial gain from it. It will pay back in the future. Always pay forward. Always treat people the way that you would expect to be treated and would want to be treated. Never, ever compromise on that, because I promise you it will come back and pay rewards in the future. Always get permission of people. Don't do things without their knowledge, because you're playing with people's lives. This isn't just about getting somebody a job, it's literally their livelihood. And that goes for client and candidate behaviour. I think it's about doing what's right for you and being authentic to you when it comes to who you actually engage with. So I think it's really important that you do learn to say no to business, even if that business looks like it's really attractive. We do it all the time. There are plenty of recruitment companies that look like they're absolutely flying, but we don't engage with them because they don't tend to match what our values are. And I think that's the lasting piece, which I guess segues very nicely back to the very start, which was all about the values of what Qui Recruitment is, that the values are what should drive you every day, day in, day out, because your values are unwavering. You can be agile, you can learn, you can adapt, you can, be developed in many ways as a recruiter or as a leader, of course. This industry is the most meritocratic one that I can think of. And it's the one that financially is the most meritocratic one I can think of, but also from a career perspective. But it can also be the most challenging. And I think if you do things with aplomb, with passion, with real integrity in everything that you do, but being true to yourself, more importantly, I think you will have tenure, and I think you will have a very rewarding, both financially, but also morally and ethically and emotionally. I think that we're in for a very exciting future as an industry, and I can't wait to see what happens. The 20th anniversary of Qui Recruitment will be celebrated in Lisbon. So if you're listening to this after the 10th, we will have already shared all our lovely photos, hopefully. Hope the sun shines. And we can't wait to share some of the key stories that we've been asking our community that know us and have been partnered with us, some of the people that we've placed over the years, of what their journey has been like. And my job, I believe, as a very experienced rectorec, is to be an advocate for our industry and to continue to be the beacon of what I believe best practice looks like, what it should be, and hopefully magnetize similar-minded people towards my organisation for us to partner. But also the privilege that I have being in this host seat, quite literally, is that I believe that's what you have the power to do. You have the power to affect and influence your industry and your community, and do so with the same level of passion and integrity that I do. And we will all create a much better regarded industry, which ultimately is in each of our powers to do. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. And, I just want to take this opportunity to thank every single person, whether you've been a candidate, client, an advocate, a bird dog, just somebody that's championed us, whether it was 20 years ago, whether it was 2 days ago. I can't thank you enough, because the reality is when you operate in a very congested market, it is very challenging. But I would like to think that anyone that has ever engaged with Qui Recruitment would hopefully say that we do everything with quality, urgency in you, and integrity. So thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing your comments.